All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Suresh Govindachetty, and thank you for joining today's webinar and demo on the DevSecOps. To begin with, who are we? Sumo Logic. We are leading continuous intelligence platform. So we are the next generation machine data analytics platform, and we are hosted out of the cloud environment. So what do we do today? We provide insights into your data. So the machine data can be logs, it can be metrics, it can be events. So the infrastructure and the apps that we have, they continuously generate machine data. And then we, Sumo Logic, we process all this data, and then we provide insights into this events, logs, metrics, so that you can make business decisions out of it. We are a highly scalable platform. We have 2,000 plus customers across the globe who rely upon us for the continuous insights. We perform around 30 million searches per day, 100 plus petabytes of data analyzed daily, and then 500 plus trillion records we query every day. And we, Sumo Logic, we provide value to you through supporting your environment irrespective of where your data is present. We support multi-cloud environments, we support hybrid environments, or it can be on-prem sort of environments. We provide you one single platform, and you can look at multiple use cases using Sumo Logic. So the dev, the sec, and then the operations, we support all the three use cases using one single platform. We provide a highly scalable and a highly cost economic model for you. We will look at the pricing as a separate discussion. You can always reach back to us. With Sumo Logic, you can look at providing excellent customer experience. You can use Sumo Logic for the operational analytics side of it, where you can look at improving your customer experience out of your applications, your infrastructure, and then you can maintain very high levels of availability by reducing the mean time for identification resolution of issues. We are a highly secure service. Security is built into Sumo Logic's DNA. We have provided you a highly secure platform. We have around 10 plus certifications for the platform that we provide today. We are ISO 27001 certified, PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR. We can provide you the list of certifications. So when you send the data to us, you can be assured that the data is completely secure. What is continuous intelligence that we are talking about? So fundamentally, continuous intelligence is a way in which we provide log analytics as a service, and we enable you to accelerate your shift to your continuous innovation rather than focusing upon building up a platform, looking at setting up your own infrastructure. So you can consume Sumo Logic as a service. So you can focus on providing best customer experience for your customers rather than focusing on building up an infrastructure, running and then maintaining it. So how do we provide you the continuous intelligence? So we provide you an always-on platform. Sumo Logic is hosted out of a cloud environment. So you can be assured that we are always on. The service is always on and then available for you. We provide you a highly scalable platform. So you can send data to us at various different ingest rates, and we absorb all the peaks and valleys of your logs, metrics, and the data ingest. We are a highly elastic platform, highly scalable, and we have advanced machine learning algorithms built into the platform, and then we help you to secure your infrastructure using Sumo Logic. So you can address all the three use cases of DevSecOps using Sumo Logic, which we are going to see in the demo today. And we have advanced analytics built in. So you can uncover the patterns, you can do all your comparative studies of how it is now versus how was it earlier. You can do all the comparative analysis. You can uncover the patterns out of it, using which you can make proactive business decisions. You can create proactive alerts, and then you can identify anomalies, any outliers which are over there for your entire infrastructure and then your application stack. So how does all of this work? And this is where our centralized platform comes into play. At the center, we have Sumo Logic, the next generation machine data analytics platform. We can ingest data in the form of metrics. It can be events, it can be logs, traces, etc. And these data can come from any of the locations or the infrastructure. We have containers from where we can collect data, security devices, on-prem devices, SaaS platforms. You can look at various different applications, services, servers, microservices based infrastructure, IoT, we can collect data anywhere. So we can collect the data. It can be structured data, it can be unstructured, it can be semi-structured. We can collect all this data and we can securely ingest into Sumo. And once the data comes into Sumo, the visualization begins. So you can provide insights on operational intelligence side of it, where you can look at what is the experience that your customers are getting out of your infrastructure. How is the latency that your customers are experiencing? What are the unique number of visitors who are visiting your website? So these are all the things that you can look in. You can look at, say, for example, the latency side of it. How many are my 4xx errors? How many of my 5xx errors? So you can derive insights, and then you can take meaningful actions based on that. We have security intelligence built into Sumo Logic. So we have 40 plus ready integrations with various different security tools. The tools can be like SaaS platforms, on-prem, it can be mixed environments. So you can quickly realize value out of Sumo Logic. So you can answer questions like, are there any failed logins followed by a successful login? Right? Is there any critical services which have been spun up in the AWS environment? How is my environment compared to the global infrastructure? So you can look at all of this using the security intelligence capabilities that we provide. You can take meaningful business decisions based on the business intelligence dashboards. The best thing about Sumo is that you can build your own dashboards. So we provide you a very flexible platform where you can write your own queries, you can build your own visualizations, and then you can make continuous decisions out of the intelligence that we provide you. How do we enable you to take business value? That is through the real-time data that we provide. Sumo Logic is fast to deploy. We will see how you can quickly set up Sumo Logic. It is a matter of minutes by which you can quickly set up Sumo Logic, so you can realize value out of Sumo Logic pretty quickly. And how can you do efficient troubleshooting, whereby you can maintain very high levels of availability? So the speed to resolution is one of the business benefits that we provide you. And we can enable you to focus on customer best practices that can contribute to your competitive advantage by looking at your CI/CD pipelines, by looking at your DevOps practices, etc. And we can enable you to speed to data to support your business cycles, and then you can focus on creating value for your customers, and then focus on your business growth. So having said that, we wanted this session to be more demo oriented. So let's get onto the Sumo interface now. So what you're looking at here is the Sumo Logic interface. And for the demo today, we have a Travel Logic portal. So we will quickly see how we can address all the three use cases of DevSecOps using Sumo Logic in this particular demo. So here we are looking at the operational use cases. So what we have for the demo today is a Travel Logic portal. So this is a portal which is using microservices. It is hosted out of a cloud environment. It is just like any other travel portal where customers come in, they book flights, hotels, cars, etc. But what is important about this service is that it is a customer-facing, revenue-generating critical portal, which is similar to critical services that you run for your customers. So the objective of this particular imaginary customer, the Travel Logic customer, is that they want to maintain very high levels of availability for this application. And in case something goes bad, they would like to quickly identify and then fix it. So to achieve these objectives, we have built a couple of views using Sumo Logic. So what we see here is a business overview dashboard. So this particular dashboard provides a high-level summary about where the business stands at any given point in time. So using colors, we can show the status of various services. Here you can see that there are a couple of colors: green, red.
Suresh, we can't see the dashboard, so probably it might be the other screen.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So for the demo today, we have the Travel Logic portal, which is a critical portal, which is customer-facing, revenue-generating portal. And we are going to see as part of the demo how this particular customer can maintain very high levels of availability by quickly resolving issues on this particular travel booking portal. So what we are looking here is a business overview dashboard. So as the name says, this dashboard provides high-level summary about the critical services. So here we can see colors are being used for showing status of services here. So we can see the green means things have been good, up and running. Red means that things are not good. There is something that needs to be looked into. So this gives a high level summary about the status of a service. Below the summary status, we have the geo views. So the geo view is a graphical representation of the data. So here we are looking at, say, for example, the flight booking locations. So the geo view is built by looking into the logs. From the logs, we pick up the IP address and we do an external table lookup, and we pick up the latitude, longitude of the IP address, and then we plot it in this nice geo view. So this helps you to visualize data in a graphical format. So the geo view shows things like where your customers are coming from. There are nice use cases using geo views. Say, for example, in case of security incidences, you can come to geo views to see where certain incidences are originating from. Things like, say, for example, admin logins. So if you have your administrators based out of only India, or for example, United States, etc., then you can visualize all your admin logins where they are happening from. And in case you see there is an admin login which is happening from a not administrator location, that definitely warrants further investigation. So these are a couple of nice use cases with GeoView. And we have integrations with Mapbox and Newstar, which helps us to drill down into a street level sort of a view. So we can drill down up to a street level sort of view, which shows where certain connections have originated from. Below the GeoViews, we have the powerful outlier function. So outlier is an unsupervised machine learning component available in Sumo Logic. So what is an outlier? The outlier basically helps to identify anomalous events or out of the trend events, which basically tells us that there is an event which is not conforming to the previous trend. So here we are looking at a central line, red line, which is the number of bookings. And we see upper and the lower boundaries, which are nothing but standard deviations. And here we can see that there is a huge drop with respect to number of bookings, which is not conforming to the previous trend. So this is identified by the outlier function, which is shown as a small pink, small red triangle over here. And the outlier basically tells us that the data point that we see here is not conforming to the previous trend, and it definitely warrants investigation to check why there is a drop with respect to the number of bookings. The outlier is a dynamic function. You can always set up alerts based on thresholds, like, say, for example, number of bookings lesser than 50, give me an alert. But then these thresholds will usually get broken, because the nature of the business is that the number of bookings can be high, it can be less in the afternoon, can again be picking up in the evening. So with outlier, we dynamically track the number of bookings or any metric that the outlier is tracking. And whenever there are abnormal variations with respect to the previous trend, then we can alert based on the same. So this helps to address the dynamic nature of the business, where you don't have to set up static thresholds at all. So once the outlier function detects the violation, so we can set up alerts, so the teams can get alerted and they can go ahead and investigate why there is a abnormal drop with respect to any of the metrics. So the outlier function can be customized. We can set up the outlier for only the positive side of it or the negative side of it, depending upon the use case. We can look at the sensitivity of the outlier. So this outlier can be further tuned to your business. So these are a couple of views using Sumo Logic. And we also have an operational overview dashboard, which focuses more from the operation side of it. So things like, there are a lot of critical elements being tracked over here. You can see the ELBs, VPC flows, database, CDN latencies, etc. But what stands out is the checkout service. Right now, the checkout service is showing up in red, which means that the customers are not able to buy the services of this Travelogic portal. So which means right now there is a revenue loss as well as a reputational loss. So to get more details about the service, all that one has to do is just click the checkout service, and you will be taken to the specifics of the checkout service. And in your environment, you can create similar dashboards. You can create summary views, and then you can link them to your specific services. And here we can see the details about the checkout service here, which shows that the number of bookings have been all good up to 3:30 p.m. But something happened after that. We see there is a lot already here. Similarly, around this 3:30 p.m. time frame, we can see there is a huge jump with respect to the resource utilization. So this gives a high level correlation that something happened around this 3:30 p.m. time frame, that the number of bookings are not happening now. And we can also see that around the same time frame, there is a huge jump with respect to the gateway latency as well. And you can see the pink circles and the triangles over here, which are nothing but outliers. So the outlier is actually telling us that there is a sudden variation with respect to the previous trend. So to get more details about it, I'm going to open up my metrics panel over here. So with Sumo Logic, we can bring in logs as well as metrics, and we can correlate between them. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. So right now we are looking at the metrics panel over here. So the metrics panel basically shows you things like, say, the CPU utilization, memory utilization, etc. And then right now it shows you the CPU utilization. So this graph clearly shows that somewhere around this 3:30 p.m. time frame, there is a huge jump with respect to the CPU utilization. But then this is only showing what is happening, but it does not, this particular metric graph does not tell me why it is happening. So to get to the why portion of it, we need the logs, and that's where the correlation between logs and metrics helps you. So to get to the log side of it, I'm plotting the logs over here. I'm looking out for errors or exceptions, and the result is plotted as a heat map here. And the heat map clearly shows that when the CPU utilization was within normal acceptable ranges, the number of error messages were less. At the moment the CPU utilization shot up, we can see the number of error messages also jumping up significantly. So to get to the Y side of it, I'm going to open up my logs around the CPU spike of it. And now the system is showing me the logs around my CPU spike. And I know that the checkout service is the one which is facing issues. So I go to the checkout service and I'm going to take up my logs plus or minus 10 minutes around the CPU spike. Now the system is gathering the logs 10 minutes around the window of the CPU spike. And now if I go through this 10-minute window of logs around the CPU spike, there is a very high possibility that I can find out why this application is actually facing issues. But then there are a couple of challenges here. You can see there are around 20,000 plus messages, 800 plus pages of logs that someone has to go through. So this is a classic scenario where we are trying to find a needle in a haystack, where there are one or two sources which may be causing this application to be facing issues, but then we have a lot of results that someone has to go through. And this is where we have come up with two powerful log reduce and log compare functions, which helps us to quickly diagnose this particular scenario. So how can we make use of this functions? So I'm going to show you how we can make use of the log reduce function. Launching log reduce is as simple as a click of a button. So I'm just going to launch the log reduce function now. So now we can see the log reduce functionality is running just by a click of a button. So log reduce is a patented technology from Sumo Logic. And what log reduce does is that it takes the search results and it groups them into related patterns, which we call it as signatures. So here we can see the log reduce function in action. The log reduce function is taking this 20,000 plus messages and it is grouping them into related patterns and signatures. And we can see that now all these 20,000 messages have now been grouped into one single page of summary that someone has to quickly go through. Here we can see there are around 3,000 plus messages of this particular type. So we can see there are a few variables like the function name is different, transaction ID is different, but all these 3,000 messages essentially are of a same type, which we call it as a signature. Similarly, there are around 1,900 messages of this particular type, etc. And if I come down a little bit, I can see some SSL transaction errors and some S3 buffer errors. So if I go ahead and reverse this count, then I can see the number of results we sorted out by numbers. So you can see there are two messages of this particular type. A closer look at this shows that the version 1.14 dev has been deployed. So this is a production setup, but looks like someone has deployed a dev code by mistake. So the SSL certificate on the prod and dev environments are not matching, and that's how this particular application has been down. So in a normal environment, there will be a war room which has been set up with experts coming from various fields trying to diagnose this issue. And by the time they find this issue, the downtime has already occurred, the revenue loss has already happened. Whereas with the log reduce functionality from Sumo Logic, we are able to diagnose this issue with a few clicks of your mouse. 20,000 plus messages have now been summarized into one single page. And by glancing through this, the team can identify what is causing this application to be facing issues, and we can quickly fix this. Similar to the log reduce, we also have a log compare functionality. So the log compare functionality, as the name says, we can compare the current environment versus a working baseline. So the working baseline can be any duration. You can see that we can do a comparison against last 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, etc. This is possible because you can store your data in Sumo Logic as long as you want. And for this particular demo, I'm going to choose, say, for example, 45 minutes duration, because I know that before we started this webinar, I know the application was working fine, for example. So I'm just going to tell the system to do a comparison now. Now the log compare functionality is running. So what is happening in the background is that the system is taking up the current logs. It is creating the baseline of patterns and signatures, and it is going back 45 minutes in time where my application was all good up and running. It creates a baseline of patterns and signatures, and it compares these two environments and tells us what the system observes as a difference between them. And here we can see the log compare functionality is already done. And then you can see that there's some interesting findings here. So there is a 45% increase with respect to this type of messages. Similarly, you can see that there is a 31% reduction in this type of messages, etc. If I go ahead and then reverse this count, this shows this is gone. So the gone essentially means that this type of message was there before, but now it is not there. So this type of message helps you in validating your bug fixes. So when you roll out a bug fix, you can always come back to see whether your errors are disappearing for your customers. You can also see there is something new here. The new essentially means that this type of error was not there before, but in the current logs, we are seeing that. And we can see these two new error messages here. And when I see the new here, then I can see there is a version 1.14 dev that has been deployed. So the dev environment seems to be the difference between working and the non-working environment. Now the team knows that there is a difference between these two environments, and then the difference seems to be the version which is maybe causing a problem for this particular application. So using log reduce and log compare, you can maintain very high levels of availability for your application. You can compare your environments, and then you can look at potentially reducing your mean time for identification and resolution of issues by up to 90–95%. So these are a couple of use cases, a couple of functionality that we wanted to show you as part of the operational analytics. There are tons of operators that we provide in Sumo Logic. In interest of time, I would like to quickly move into the other aspects of Sumo, where we would like to show you how you can get proactively alerted. So the log reduce and log compare functionalities are good, but this becomes slightly reactive because we are now diagnosing the issue after the issue has actually happened. So you can become proactive by generating alerts. So I'm going to show you how you can generate alerts using Sumo Logic. So this being a critical system, I would like to get monitored. I would like to get notified in case something changes in the system. So I'm asking the system to find out if there are any changes, and I see that yes, there are indeed some changes. So what I can do is I can create an alert here. As my critical infrastructure changed, I can schedule the search. I can run it on any frequency I want. I can run it real time. Every 15 minutes, you can decide the frequency that you want to run. For this demo, I will choose 15 minutes. And I can set up a condition over here. And the condition being whenever you see the results greater than 0, which means something has changed. So send me an alert. The alert can be through an email. So all the email recipients will receive an alert. And we also have a ServiceNow connection. So using ServiceNow, we can automatically create a ticket in ServiceNow. So this assures you that the condition is captured inside your ticketing tool, and then there are teams who pick up the particular incident, run it through the L1, L2, L3, they diagnose this particular issue, and then they take it to a logical closure. We also support webhooks. Any app that supports a webhook, we can create an alert there. Slack is one of the very popular channels where we can create alert, PagerDuty, etc. Any app that supports a webhook, then we can create alerts. So by creating alerts, you can become proactive rather than being completely reactive. So this addresses a couple of operational use cases. So we looked at how we can use log reduce, how we can look at log compare, and then we looked at how you can create alerts using Sumo Logic. So I'm going to show you one of the alerts over here. So let's switch the gears a little bit and get into the security side of it. So what we're seeing here is an alert which is generated in the security operations high priority channel. So before we get onto the alerts, I would like to quickly show you how we can show you a full stack visibility using Sumo Logic. So what we're seeing here in the diagram is that this is a centralized data collection architecture diagram. At the center, we have the Sumo Logic platform, which is the next generation machine data analytics platform. And predominantly, we collect data in the form of installed collectors and then the hosted collectors. Installed collector is a small agent from Sumo Logic, which can be installed on Windows, Unix, Linux sort of instances. And the agent basically collects data. This can be your system data. It can be security data. It can be events. It can be logs. It can be metrics. So the agent collects the data. And once it collects all the data, it encrypts all this data. It compresses the data. It encrypts it with TLS 1.2 and sends it to Sumo Logic. So your data in motion is completely encrypted with HTTPS TLS 1.2, and it is completely secure. And once the data reaches the Sumo Logic platform, we again encrypt with the AES 256 standards, and then we keep rotating the keys. So your data in motion as well as your data in rest is completely encrypted, and it is secure with Sumo Logic. And on the right hand side, we have hosted collectors. There is no installable component here. So we have a listener which is listening on the cloud. Hosted collectors primarily used for collecting data from cloud environments. We can collect data from cloud environments like AWS, Azure, GCP, etc. So when it comes to AWS, we can collect data from, say, for example, S3 buckets. It can be through CloudWatch logs, CloudWatch metrics, etc. We have well-documented data collection mechanisms for AWS, Azure, and GCP. through which we can securely collect data, and then we can transmit it to Sumo Logic. We also support CDNs like Fastly, Akamai, Cloudflare. And when it comes to security, we have 40 plus ready integrations which are available like Trend Micro, Deep Security, Cylance, Carbon Black, etc. We support single sign-on platforms like OneLogin, Duo, the SaaS platforms like O365, Salesforce, GSOD. And we also support the microservices-based infrastructure. We can collect data from containers. We support Dockers and then the Kubernetes-based environments. So by supporting data collection from diverse set of sources, we can collect data from on-prem environments. We can collect data from cloud environments. We support hybrid environments like you have some services running on the cloud with partial services running on the on-prem. We support multi-cloud deployments. In future, if you move your apps to multi-cloud, then you can be assured that the DevSecOps platform that you use supports some multi-cloud deployments, and then we can collect data from pretty much any location. So by collecting data from the diverse set of sources, Sumo Logic becomes a single source of truth. And at any given point in time, you can use Sumo Logic to understand where your security stands at any given point in time. And once we collect all this data into Sumo Logic, the visualization part begins. And this is where the centralized platform comes into play. And then we can look at creating meaningful and then focused alerts. So here we are looking at one of the alerts, security alerts, which is generated in Sumo Logic. So you can set up alerts as simple as saying that if you detect a malicious traffic, send me an alert. It can be as complex as multiple conditions. So here we are looking at a security operations high priority channel. And this particular channel in Slack receives the alert when multiple conditions are met. The conditions being the single IP address shows multiple failed authentication attempts. And my antivirus shows that there is a infected traffic. And the CrowdStrike shows that there is a very high malicious confidence score. So when multiple conditions getting met, there is a alert which is getting triggered, and it's delivered to a security operations high priority channel, which is monitored by the security analyst. So there are a couple of things that I can do here. I noticed that there is a traffic which is originating from this public IP address, ends with 187.202, and it is interacting with my internal IP address. I can take an action right away here. I can quarantine the infested host. If your information security policy mandates that you need to take action, you can straight away take an action from here where you can quarantine the host. But for demo purpose, I don't want to do that. You can also do an investigation of this particular incident. So for that, you can go to the security operations dashboard. You click this, and then I have kept it handy, ready, open for you here. And here you can look at the investigation response console, ULM is unified logs and metrics, where we can show you correlation between logs and metrics together. Here we can see the critical public facing infrastructure getting monitored over here for network, CPU host activity, and then any alerts over here, any significant jumps over here, definitely warrants further investigation. So you can monitor all your critical internet facing nodes using Sumo Logic. You can also see a lot of data getting tracked and being monitored over here. You can see the anomalies and threats detected using this period. This shows the authentication attempts for availability zone range. You can see there is a sudden spike with respect to the failed authentication attempts, which is identified by the outlier function over here. We also can classify the security incidences into low, medium, high, unverified, etc. using the threat intel feed. I'm going to walk you through the threat intel feed shortly from now. The next panel shows you the threat breakdown by various different resources. So you can see where these particular incidences are originating from inside your environment. And you can look at the firewall IPS IDS layer here. This shows the amount of data flowing out of your firewall, the source IP addresses, how much data is sending out, etc. And this panel shows the data exfills. In this particular environment, the customer does not send any data out of the MySQL environment. But here we can see there is a MySQL environment, which shows a huge data exfil. So it looks like the data is being taken out from this MySQL environment in this particular demo account. And a comparative analysis of now versus last week shows that traditionally 0 amount of data is being sent, but now we can see there is huge amount of data which is flowing out of the MySQL environment. A further investigation shows that there is a fancy bear actors who has been active on this environment, and looks like in this particular case a data expel has happened. So you can see the source IP address, you can look at the destination IP address, the account ID, the malicious confidence, and then all the details about this particular incident. So now that the team knows there is a data access which has happened, they can prepare a report and then they can send it to management for suitable action. So having seen that, how have we built all of these logs? So all these dashboards are built from the logs. So I'm going to show you how we have built this. I'm going to look out into this particular panel over here. So we can see that this particular outlier panel is built from the logs. And then what I'm going to do is that I know that this is a public IP address from which I saw this particular connection. So let me remove all of this data. And I'm going to look at my data only for this particular public IP address. And then I can see there are around some 417 results associated with this public IP. So I can go through all this set of logs, and you can see the data has come from various different source categories, and I can try to diagnose this myself, but I have the powerful log reduce and log compare functionalities here, which I can readily use. So I'm doing the log reduce functionality now. So you can see the log reduce functionality in action now, which is now taking up all my logs associated with this malicious IP address. And then now it is going to show me a summary of what has actually happened in my environment. And here I can see the quick summary has come in now. I have one single page of summary where I can quickly glance through it. And I can see that there indeed was a connection from this particular public IP address to my internal IP address, and this connection was accepted. I can see a virus detection happening over here. And if I go through this logs, I can see the MySQL environment, which shows the data exfil, which is actually happening over here. Right. So we can go through the raw logs and then we can quickly investigate as to what has happened in this particular environment. So now we looked at how we can generate alerts, and we also looked at how we can do a security investigation using Sumo Logic. I would like to quickly show you how we can realize value out of Sumo. So all I have here is the manage data panel. Go to collection. So this shows various different collectors and the various different sources from which Sumo Logic is collecting all this data. And once all this data comes into Sumo, the visualization part begins. To make the visualization easier, we have built the app catalog. So this is the app catalog, which contains about 200 plus applications. These 200 plus applications span across AWS Web Services, compliance and security, database, IT infrastructure, DevOps, etc. And an app is something like a template. So the app contains predefined dashboards, alerts, which you can readily make use of. So let us look at, say, for example, Nginx. So here we can see there are a couple of dashboards which are readily available. And you can also see that there are searches which are ready for your data. This shows things like malicious URL requests, robots, the 4x access per day, shows top browsers, referrers, etc. So to get the dashboards and then the queries for your data, all that is required is that you go to the Nginx app and then say click add to library, and then all you have to do is just mention where the Nginx logs are, and then say add to library, and then this particular app will be added to your personal folder, and then you can see all those dashboards populating with your data. So let me quickly show you the dashboards here. So for the Nginx, so I'm going to open up a couple of panels over here. So here you can look at the Nginx overview. It shows you things like the traffic distribution by the server, shows the visitor locations, where your visitors are coming from, the responses over time, like how many are successes, how many are your errors, server-side errors, etc. This dashboard shows the visitor traffic insight, showing up all the top referrers or top documents, what are the type of media which is being served, popular search engines, and look at web server operations. So this shows the top 10 bots observed in this particular environment, shows things like, say, the client locations, where are the 4xx errors happening inside your environment. It shows where are the server errors over the time, etc. It shows all of these dashboards. These dashboards will be populated with your data. So we are looking at the app catalog, 200 plus apps over here. And these apps are built by Sumo Logic. These are supported by Sumo Logic, and these are completely free. So you can see on the AWS side of it, we have all the critical services of AWS covered here. We have CloudTrail, Security Hub, we have app for the AWS WAF, ECS. You can see all the apps over here. On the compliance and security setup, you have 40 plus tools ready integrations. So you can quickly integrate your security with Sumo Logic. Databases side of it, most of the popular databases are covered over here, and the DevOps side of it. So we have apps which can help you to get insights into your DevOps environment. So we have apps, say for example, the Bitbucket. So you can look at your builds, deployments, the status of it all in one single place using Sumo Logic. And you can see we have Ops Genie, Jenkins, GitHub, Circle CI, Spinnaker, Jira, a lot of ready to use apps which can help you in your DevOps journey. Right, so let's get back to our discussion over here. So using Sumo Logic, you can bring in data from virtually anywhere. So we can collect data from on-prem, we can collect data from hybrid environments, cloud, multi-cloud environments, the CDNs, SaaS platforms, and then the microservices-based infrastructure. And then we can provide you full stack visibility from the dev perspective, from the operations use cases, and then the security analytics use cases. We have 200 plus out-of-the-box apps. So these span across various categories. This helps you to quickly integrate Sumo Logic into your environment, whereby you can realize quick value of Sumo Logic. So using Sumo Logic, we can provide you continuous intelligence. So you can get visibility across your entire infrastructure and your application stack, irrespective of where your data is present. So you can see both the knowns, unknowns. You can look at your entire infrastructure. Sumo Logic becomes a single source of truth for you. You can quickly investigate and resolve issues using the Sumo Logic operational intelligence. So we provide you powerful log reduce, log compare, time compare, anomaly detections, etc., using which you can identify issues and then you can quickly resolve them. We provide insights which helps you to improve your application performance, and you can focus on building your brand and then delivering value for your customers. And we can help you to operate and innovate in the cloud with security and then the confidence. And with Sumo Logic, you can accelerate your shift towards continuous intelligence, focusing on your customers rather than building and then running a infrastructure. So you can consume Sumo Logic as a service. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover quickly for the DevSecOps use cases. We are open for the Q&A now. We have a chat window here where you can post in all your queries. So we have answered most of the queries in the Q&A section. So we'll wait for a couple of more minutes to answer any more questions. So there is a question from Anand. How is Sumo Logic different from having my own ELK stack? So Sumo Logic is provided as a service. So you don't have to maintain an infrastructure on your own. You can consume Sumo Logic as a service. We also provide you a highly scalable differentiated platform. And we provide you unique models wherein you can bring in your data and then you can assign them to different tiers depending upon the value of your data as well. So in summary, we are a service We are a SaaS platform, so there is no need for you to build a search infrastructure, run it, maintain it, etc. You can consume it as a service with a highly differentiated model with very efficient pricing and the scalability. Is there an app for post metrics for adapt servers? Yes. So we can collect metrics as part of the data collection mechanism. So we provide you a Sumo Logic agent, which can collect the metrics, and then you can bring it into Sumo, and you can correlate the metrics with the logs as well. And you can also generate alerts for your post metrics. You can do all of them using Sumo Logic. Is it possible to combine DB logs with web logs is the question. Yes, you can do that. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by combine DB logs with web logs, but having said that, you can bring in both the DB logs, you can bring your web logs, and you can correlate between both the set of logs as well. There is a question, can we integrate the FortiGate firewall logs? Yes. So you can bring in the firewall logs, you can bring in IPS, IDS logs, you can bring in data from your endpoint devices, you can bring in any security related logs into Sumo Logic. So we have multiple mechanisms by which we can integrate these logs, and then we can provide you intelligence out of it. There is a question on how do you address SME segment requirements? Yeah, so as we discussed earlier, Sumo Logic being a SaaS platform, there is no need for you to maintain an infrastructure, no need to buy hardware, maintain it, procure it. So you can consume us as a service. And we provide a model wherein you can scale up your infrastructure, your analytics infrastructure seamlessly. So you can just come into Sumo Logic and then you can upgrade as your business requirements grow. So you can depend on a highly scalable platform like Sumo Logic, where there is no need for you to build the infrastructure on your own, but you can subscribe to Sumo Logic as a service, and then you can scale up as your business grows. I trust that answers your question. If there are no more questions, we are good for the day. We will be sharing the presentation post this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining today. Wish you all a great day. Bye-bye.